All right. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about the design sprint, which is a methodology in how to sort of think up an idea and then prototype it and then test it within a closed group for the period of 1 week. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Nils Sköld. I'm a design director at the TV4 Group, but half of my time I work as a UX lead mobile for a upcoming project here at TV4. But the other half, I work where I'm at the TV4 Group. I work mostly with big or small companies that sort of need what we call an innovation push, which is basically you're either a startup that sort of need an idea of how to release your product, or you're a big company that sort of need sort of to catch up with a startup. So we usually work for like 4 weeks, and then within this we always implement a design sprint because it's a very, very good thing to do. So basically it's a 5-day process for answering critical business questions through design, prototyping, and testing ideas with customers. So this could be used on multiple projects, like both long and short, but I think it's designed to work best for like a single function or a single business problem, like let's increase our conversion on our landing page, or let's make more people download our app, or let make people, I don't know, enjoy our app more or share more. But I mean, it could be used for whole products or brands. But the key here is that we test the idea through design to prototyping, and then we test it on real customers. And the reason we do this is because instead of someone in a company or in an agency comes up with an idea, so instead of sort of like acting on that idea and building it and launching it and then learn, we sort of test it out really, really quickly and then sort of make sure that it's a viable idea and that it's something that will work, that will generate revenue, whatever you measure your product on, before we build it. So you test the critical business question, and using this methodology, like most ideas fail. I mean, that's good. I'll come to that later. But so it's a week. Okay, let me just say that Google invented this. I didn't at all. Google Ventures, they usually do around, I don't know, they stated they do like 600 a year, but they sort of help startups, but also like startups they want to buy, they do this methodology to sort of figure out where they help people to go. But anyway, it's a week. So on Monday, you do sort of the unpack, you get everyone on the right, the same page. And then on Tuesday, you sketch out multiple ideas on how to solve this problem that you have. Then on Wednesday, you decide which direction you want to go. Thursday, you build a prototype, and then on Friday, you test it. So this seems like a lot, but the whole key of this is to sort of know when to stop and only do as much as needed to sort of validate your idea. So before the week starts, you sort of have to set the stage. The most important thing is that everyone that sort of has a stake in this participates. So if that's the CEO, head of marketing, everyone. Although I've done it with like only 3 designers and no one else, and that sort of worked great as well. But the main reason for this is that you want to get decisions really fast. If you just do it like in a closed designer developer group, then people who sort of have the power to make it or break it in this idea, won't be part of it, and then this whole sort of methodology fails. So the first thing is to sort of like, you need all stakeholders there, and you need to basically clear their schedules, because they're going to need to work like a full week of this. And this, if you're an agency, that's the client. If you're in a product, and that's your, the higher ups. Obviously, you need to pick a design problem, and then you need a war room. So a war room is basically just a dedicated room that will be yours for the whole week. The reason this is important is because you do a lot of like sketching, you do a lot of putting post-its up and putting things up on a wall, and no one's going to remember there, and there's no time for sort of documenting. So it needs to be up on a wall when you proceed to day 2 and day 3 and day 4. And then so you gather your stakeholders, everyone is clear schedule, and you have a room. Great. Okay, so the first day is sort of like getting everything on the table. That could be like inspiration. What does other people do? What the great people do in other industry, like general research, data, technical limitations, target customers, everything. We usually prepare 1 week so that we can have everything on the table for this. But if you get the right people in the room, then, everyone will know this. And then you draw out the user journey. So you basically start from the very beginning that you can think of, and then you draw out like what does the user do regarding this specific problem, every step. And then you break that journey into pieces, and then you sort of pick the part of the whole problem that you're going to solve, so that everyone knows everything, every limitation, everything. Everyone knows everything, and everyone else is very, very clear about what problem we are about to solve. Yeah, so this is a user journey of a notification system that we did a couple of months back. So yeah, let's skip to this. So this is an example of a user journey. Maybe you know this, but I'll go through it anyway. The reason why you want to do a journey is because everyone has sort of this different look on what a problem is. But if you place it on like a timeline, and then you map out every single interaction that the user has, even if it's like every interaction. If you map that out, then you can see which interaction is good, which interaction is bad, and then you can act on the bad ones. You can also sort of understand the problem in a way that's hard to do otherwise. So this, I made this up. This is basically for like sending an email in a web client. So you open a web browser, and that's okay, and then you like navigate to the mail website, and Chrome or Safari auto-completes where you want to go, so that's great. And then you type in the recipients, and that's great until you forget someone's name, and then you have to go into like the calendar, or go and ask him or her. But that's usually know the people you want to. But then you think of a subject, and then obviously you forget to add it, and it's super hard. And then you're going to post a text, and then you get writer's block, and that's hard. And then you forget to attach the file. But then you send it, and you get a reply, and that's nice. So I mean, I don't know, but this is probably how Google sort of figured out the whole reminding people how to, you said that you were attached a file, but you didn't. That's classic function out of a design sprint. So you know what problem you're going to solve, and you know everything about the problem, or everything there is to know anyway. And this is the fun part, or at least for me, for designers. Then you spend a whole day of just sketching ideas, and sort of the key, what makes this different, is that the CEO sketch IDs, everyone sketch IDs, not just the designers. These are designers on the photo, but so there's this. I mean, you can do whatever feels right. I followed the Google rules rigorously for this day, particularly. So what you do is you spend 10 minutes you do a mind map. Just write circle things and how it is connected, and everything, all of your ideas, just get it out on paper. And then we do something called Crazy 8, which is basically you take a 8-3 piece of paper and you fold it 4 times, so then you have 8 areas in it. And then on 5 minutes time, you sketch out 8 IDs. So that's 40 seconds per ID. This is really, really, really quick. First time, you're not going to make it because it makes you, not focusing on problems, but rather than focusing on solutions. So then you pick out your favorite ID, and then on a piece of paper, you put 3 post-its, and then you draw out the scenario. you know, if it's like a dashboard and you can zoom in 3 levers, if it's a button that solves everything, there's a pressed state and afterwards and what happens. Like, just describe your solution in 3 steps. And you make it anonymous. So then you put it on the wall and then have everyone sort of silent critique it, which basically vote for their favorites for 5 minutes, and then you sort of the whole group gathers and you talk about the different ideas, what's good, what's bad about it, for 10 minutes. Like, you have 3 minutes to sort of defend your idea. And then everyone gets 1 vote, and these are some variations to it, but like usually sort of the more higher ups get more votes. So the CEO gets 3 and I get 1. And then you repeat this 6 to 8 times, which is great, but it's also very, very, very hard. First time, easy. Second time, that's fun. Like, the 4th time, you have run out of ideas. So that sort of forces you to iterate on ideas you've already had or ideas that others had. And this is sort of when it gets good. So, I mean, you can have different topics for, like, this hour we're going to do fun ideas, or this hour we're going to do secure ideas or personal, or whatever fits sort of the problem. But the most important thing is that, like, you iterate as many times as possible. And, like, after this day, you just go home and crash because you're so worn out. But it's fun. Okay, so you're in the middle of the week, and this time it's time to decide, and this is a whole day. So it's divided into 3 parts. The first thing you do is you take all the sort of the scenarios, and especially the ones that have won, and you go through them and you look for conflicts. So, say for example, well, we can say a landing page. So one is like the idea is a landing page is like a long scrolling telling the whole story of the product, and the other one is just like 1 image, 1 button. So that's a conflict. So you can't have both. So you put them next to each other. So that forces sort of everyone to see that voting for one thing means that you can't have the other, as in every sort of design solution. And then you test your assumptions. And the way you test your assumption is you just list all your assumptions. Like, this product is going to make people happy. Okay, but how do we test that? Because any assumption without sort of a proof is worth nothing in this methodology. So then, like, oh, okay, we do a user test and we look at reactions. That's sort of a poor way to test things, but it is still a test. Then we're like, oh, this is going to make more people click the button. Okay, then we measure that on click. So we have, for every assumption that we think, it's easier to list the assumption first, and then you try to figure out how to test it. That's the hard one. But then you use this to draw out a user scenario. And this user scenario is exactly how the prototype should function. Exactly how you're going to test your idea. So, I mean, it could be, I don't know, an app, and then you start it up, and you press this button, and you press this, and if the user pressed this button, then that's a success. Sort of like this. And you base the scenario entirely out of your assumption/test thing. And then it's Thursday, and you're going to build a prototype in 8 hours. So this is hard, super hard. But what you sort of need to think about, and always when sort of testing ideas, is how much needs to be in the prototype in order for you to sort of like get real data on validating your assumption. Because this doesn't need to look good as long as the user understands what they're doing. This doesn't have to sort of like have the whole flow of a solution to a problem if it's only 2 or 3 steps that's sort of like key to solving it. So you have to limit yourself, because this is 8 hours. You don't have time to write a lot of code. So I usually prototype in Keynote, because Keynote is super, super, super quick. And you can also use video in Keynote, which is good in some projects. But so sometimes you really need to write write code your prototype. So there has been times when we've sort of expanded the prototype day to be a full week. But that's rare, and that also sort of defeats the purpose of doing things in 1 week. But it can be done. This is the only day that can be expanded. Like if you need real data for sort of the solution to be validated, then it could be okay. And then you test it, and you have to test on real users. But almost all the time, real users are your friends, your family, your coworkers. If it's not, then that's bad, and then you have to prepare for that, like before starting this week. But coworkers will suffice. And it's very easy when you test things that you sort of want to ask follow-up questions and then follow-up questions and follow-up questions and sort of write everything down because you want to get this sort of like insights. And insights are great, but not for this, because the only thing you want to do is validate your ID. So you would sort of want data to act on. So, I don't know, test on 10 people or until you see a clear pattern. If you do like 5 tests and everyone does the same, then you know that that's going to happen. People are always the same. And also like use almost real data. Like don't start off with naming someone Susie and then name her Sarah, because that will distract the users. And that will also make the test will make the test results bad. So, and also if you see this during a test, pause and then redo the prototype and then start testing again. But like 10 tests, 8 hours, again, you're gonna have to do it really, really quick. So, and like the final thing to say is, when your week is done, if you've time boxed this perfectly, you can use like the 2 last hours of Friday having a beer and sort of like document what you've found out, but most often you're not. So make sure, because I tried to do design sprint after design sprint, like 4 weeks in a row. Total disaster, total disaster. Like we didn't have any time to set the stage and we didn't have any time to do any documentation. So like everything we did, we sort of like, didn't lead anywhere. Unless, so if you're great at gathering the team, then everyone who sort of has a way to make it a reality, then they would be in the team. But then that's going to be rare. So documenting it, like don't do a lot of keynotes. Just like, I don't know, photograph your IDs and write down what you found out. And even if you get everyone, like people forget. So the design sprint is amazing. It's really, really great. People are always, always, always stunned by how much results gets done in only 5 days. Like what usually takes 1 or 2 months is done in a week, which is amazing. And it enables you to get big insights, and it enables you to make very big decisions in very little time. And when you have an idea and it works and it's a success, I mean, that's a fantastic payoff. But it's the epic failures that sort of are the biggest return on invest. Those are the ones that sort of like, you spot a critical flaw only after 5 days of work and you don't build it. That's sort of like the biggest learning. So I recommend design sprints. You can read more about it. To be honest, this is it, sort of, to read about. But if you have an idea, test it and prototype it, build it and test it, and don't build it. Thank you.
So I think we have some time for questions.
1 minute. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Morten from Denmark. Google has another famous thing called prototyping. Are you familiar with that?
Maybe, no.
Okay, it's a similar thing. So it's just fake it before you make it type of thing. So it seems a lot like what you're doing. So I just wanted to ask if you had any thoughts on why to pick design sprints rather than the other one. But I'll catch you in the break.
It's probably similar. But yeah.
Not quite, but if you don't know it, it doesn't matter.
Okay, no, I don't.
Anyone more?
Hey, so on the Friday you test with real users, and that takes most of the whole day. So you don't really have any time to analyze the tests. You just kind of take your immediate impression of the tests and then move on and take that as the definitive answer.
Yes, that is.
Does that cause problems, or is that...
It does cause problems if you really, really are on the lookout for sort of like deep insights. But I realize now I forgot to add a part here. But so what we did, we started out like having a test and then like meeting and then like, okay, what did this test learn us? And then so like, and then that sort of didn't give us anything. That will give you something like when you have a real product and like you meet people in the real environment and sort of like do user research, but it was wasted in this methodology because all you wanted is like a graph that says, yes, they like this, or they performed it in 2 clicks rather than 5. So what I'm doing now in everything, like I do sort of like a type form of an online survey of something like, which is like 10 questions, like, does the user press the right button? Yes, no, what? And just go this, just print screen the whole sort of graph, and then it's like, this is the result. No insight whatsoever. And that works way better. But obviously, I mean, if you need insights, then that's the test. I mean, a test could be just showing a piece of paper, and it's like, tell me what you think of this. I think it's a bad test, but that could be it. Like if you only are out for sort of like emotional or a thing from your prototype, and that's the test. But usually it's like, at least the ones I've done have been sort of like hard data, which like we want to increase conversion or something like that. That is more measurable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.